at a very high level, I've been thinking about this a lot. Is applied behavioral science its own field, or is it actually just a specialization of other fields? And the reason that I think that is, I see more and more firms starting behavioral science teams. At some point, I'll probably talk about my work at Microsoft and at Tonal, where I've been a part of and helped build the first behavioral science teams. But I also see a lot of firms that don't want to go and create a dedicated behavioral science team and instead want to try to help get their PMs and their user researchers and other data scientists, etc., get them equipped with behavioral science skills so they can weave that into their work. And so it is, I think it's the jury's still out, we'll say, on which is more. I think that ultimately there will probably be a place for applied behavioral scientists as a whole. And then there will also be others who just become specialized in it while still maintaining their main department. But if we look at the state of the field as of today, we'll say, and what are the differences between an individual who calls himself an applied behavioral scientist, such as myself, compared to people in user research and data science? I think let's talk about the similarities first. All of them think about user needs and trying to discover patterns of user behavior just at different levels. And I'll talk a little bit more about those levels at the differences. I think that all of the teams are also research teams. They use research principles. I think that it differs depending on the actual company, but all of them pursue some sort of research in how they approach their projects. And that's another similarity that I think is really important to think about, is that all of those teams are auxiliary units. They may help with cost savings, but none of them per se build products, so they don't actually address the bottom line. And instead they pick up projects to help those teams, like your product management, your engineering, your marketing, places, departments like that, that are actually creating a end bottom line value, or actually creating money for the firm. So I think all of them have an important role to play in creating those projects. And then the last similarity on that line is that all of them have to be very good at stakeholder management to ensure that they really do have the right project to impact what is most important for those revenue generating departments. So those are some of the similarities. Like I said, there's many more, but I think those are some of the ones that I see most common. Now, when we look at the differences, and again, this is just my take, it does depend on the company. It depends on the how advanced each of these units are. It depends on a lot of variables. I've seen UX done extraordinarily well. I've also seen UX done where it was really just, hey, let's go survey some people and see what happens. Same thing with data science. I've seen data science being nothing more than just traditional descriptive analytics, all the way to, you see some of these large tech firms that have huge ML models that have the potential to truly change the world, and coming out of data science teams. So I think that I'll condition everything I'm saying with it really does depend on the actual company. But I believe that behavioral science has a great difference in that it focuses on specific user outcomes. And what I mean by that is, if I look at user experience, they are generally looking for user needs. They're looking for the opportunities to understand what the user wants. And again, even with user needs, the things that are missing from that user's life. If I look at data science, they're looking at aggregates. They're looking at the high level overview of what are the patterns of behavior. Could also be patterns of desires or needs, etc. But they are looking at the high level. And I see applied behavioral science as fitting in between that spectrum of low level individual user needs, high level aggregate user needs, but focusing on what are the specific intentions that a user is bringing to whatever product that they're using, and is that product satisfying that need? And again, I will one last time condition. It depends on the group. I have seen UX teams focusing on that. I have seen data science teams focusing on that. But when they are not, applied behavioral science at its core is all about thinking about outcomes, all about what is the specific behavior that has been changed. And so applied behavioral science brings that very unique perspective. The one other piece that I'll say is that user experience generally leans more qualitative. Data science generally leans more quantitative. And I found with applied behavioral science, since it's so outcome driven, that it really depends on the project on which methodology is necessary. And for that, I'll reference that an applied behavioral scientist really has to be a mixed method researcher, bringing in the principles of what is the gold standard of research, which is an RCT. Bring in those elements and utilize those elements across both quantitative and qualitative experiments. The last thing I'll touch on, and you Vignesh, you brought this up in the beginning of the question, but the last main difference that I see of applied behavioral science is that behavioral science is a loosely defined field in the sense that it really is an applied social scientist. There's principles from psychology. I just finished this week. I've been at an economics conference, and I've been surprised how many times I've heard principles that I've heard of in behavioral science applied in economics too. So it truly is. It takes understandings from all of the other social science fields, and I believe that that's a unique characteristic of being an applied behavioral scientist. Is you have to have familiarity with economics, sociology, psychology, a little bit of anthropology. You have to have the surface level understanding of all of those different fields that then you can bring to those user problems.